Welcome in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 following the Eagles' Week 1 win. It feels like it was like a days ago or a while ago now, Johnny Mac. It was last Friday. Week 1 wrapped up last night with Aaron Rodgers losing his 2024 debut with the Jets to San Francisco. They still look like a damn good team. How you doing on this Tuesday morning, Johnny Mac?
Doing well. Trying to bounce back from that awful Jets performance. I got that one wrong. Boy, I gave way too much credence to the players, and what a disaster that organization is, by the way.
Yeah, didn't look great last night. They were I don't know what happened with Sauce Gardner. He stopped playing. Did he ever come back? I fell asleep again on the couch.
He got the wind knocked out of him. Well, that's another thing. I'm going to go off on a quick tangent. And this goes to every single media department around the NFL. Like, why can't you just say you got the wind knocked out of him to the side? I forget who the sideline reporter was, but they say it's not a medical issue. And then social media goes nuts. Oh, he looks depressed. He's down. All these, a million conspiracy theories. Just freaking tell the truth. He clearly got banged up on the play with Deebo Samuel. He got the wind knocked out. Old football term. I know they don't like to use that and make light of things, but
right.
I mean, if you just inform the people, you stop the nonsense. But then, it's the New York Jets, and they're a disaster. And I assume that includes everything about their organization. I digress, though.
Yeah, no doubt. What did you think of that game, though, with Aaron, coming back? Looked like he was a little rusty, but at the end of the day, he's still Aaron Rodgers. What'd you think of that game?
Yeah, I mean, you saw some of the throws, some of the pinpoint ball placement still there. When Christian McCaffrey was ruled out, which evidently came Friday, I thought the Jets would have the best running back in the game, and Breece Hall, he was terrible.
Yeah,
he gets outplayed by Jordan Mason, I believe is his name. I have to look it up. Yeah, he was tremendous. One cut runner. That's that Shanahan system typically before Christian McCaffrey. And made quick decisions, ran hard. Yeah, they just blew him out. I was most disappointed with the Jets defense.
Yeah, they were not
supposed to be one of the best defenses in the NFL. And they lost C.J. Mosley for a while, and they lost Sauce for a while. And I'm sure they'll get better, but not a good Week 1 performance, to say the least.
You think Hassan Reddick is licking his chops, waiting for the call from Joe Douglas today?
Yeah, probably. And they'll probably overreact, and he'll get more than what he has been getting. But that's such a strain. Again, it goes back to why make the trade from their perspective if they know the player's unhappy and they're not going to work out something. I can't even. I'm disgusted with myself for putting stock in the New York Jets. And it's the organization. It's, the players are good. The organization.
Yeah, it's funny that we both picked the Jets on the show yesterday, and that game started last night, and I'm like, did I pick the Jets over the 49ers coming off an Aaron Rodgers Achilles and the Jets and the 49ers who still have one of the best?
Well, Jody would be scolding me because I keep waiting for the Brock Purdy fall.
Nah, man, I think Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. I like
he
Brock
is.
Purdy.
He is, but he's not elevating people like Kyle Shanahan's elevating him. Now, he deserves credit for taking advantage, and that he's the best play schemer, play designer in the world. And it's all play action, and he's throwing to open receivers 9 times out of 10. But boy, I keep waiting for the adjustments, and these defensive coordinators better get to it. I'll say that. They better get to it quickly.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I don't know. I like Purdy, I think, a little bit more than you. He has his moments where I think he's not great, but I do think he's a solid quarterback. And like you said, he works well in that Shanahan system. So we'll see what they're going to do. They're going to be a good team this year, no doubt. They're going to be probably the top contender in the NFC, I would say, alongside the Eagles and the Lions. So right up there. It looks like what we projected, or those teams are going to be the best. And I think, with Green Bay maybe losing Jordan Love, I think the Rams could sneak in there at the back. And there's a couple teams that could sneak in if Jordan Love misses significant time. So we'll see. The NFC has a good little bit of an open field right now. We'll see what ends up happening with everything there. I want to welcome and thank everybody for being here this morning. Johnny Mack, the much anticipated Saquon Week 1 jersey giveaway is commencing today.
Give
away
man.
the jersey in a little Birds 365 after hours. I have a random name selector, so it's not going to be any bias on my front. We have all of our members entered in, and we will do that raffle live, and I will show you guys the raffle. I will do it full transparency and show you guys the random name selector, and we will do that.
Where do you get a random name selector?
What's that?
Where do you get a random name selector?
You go on Google, John, and you type in.
All right. Random name
random.
Fair enough.
I typed in giveaway winner for, or giveaway selector for my YouTube members, and then I was led to ultimately a name selector, and I went through a couple of them, and I picked the one I liked the best, because you can
Fair
make
enough.
sure it removes any duplicates or anything like that. So I got all of our members in there, and I'm looking forward to doing it.
Google is a wonderful tool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Wouldn't have been so easy back in the day, but at the end of the day, Google owns YouTube. So that the reason we're here is Google. So we do appreciate, obviously, that. Johnny Mack, let's get into the Eagles. It's Tuesday. So, you start to shift a little bit away, especially when it's a Friday game, away from what happened, and you start to preview. But we're in a weird spot, right? You're coming off a Friday game, and then you have a Monday game. So it's like you don't want to start previewing too early. You can't recap too late. But we will get into a little bit. I want to talk to you about Nick Sirianni. We're going to get into our Nick Sirianni. I saw you put up a column, and the title of the column was Nick Sirianni, or Eagles coach, explains difference in his 2022 role. Before we get into that exactly, did you notice or what did you see from Nick Sirianni in that Friday night game? Did you notice him having a little bit of a different role on that sideline? Not talking to Jalen as much or anything like that in the game on Friday?
Not overtly, but one of the things I've said from the start is, that not that much has changed on game day, because he had given up play calling in 2021, basically midway through the season. The Chargers game that year is when Shane took over. So one of the strange narratives to me throughout the offseason was, Nick Sirianni's becoming a CEO coach. Always was a CEO coach since, again, midway through his first season. So that part never changed, and I never got why people played that up to that standpoint. But he did explain one difference, and he has explained it in the past as well to a certain degree. When they were struggling last year, he spent a lot of time with the offense and never took over play calling, never took it back from Brian Johnson, but was really focused on trying to help Brian Johnson get the team out of the slide, was spending a lot of time trying to figure things out. And that took him away from other things with the team, the overall view, the 30,000-foot view he always talks about. So throughout the whole process, throughout the first 3 years of Nick Sirianni, he game planned the offense every single week. So pre-Shane Steichen, post-Shane Steichen, with Brian Johnson, he was still in charge of the game plan and putting together the game plan. So Shane and Brian were essentially, if you want to think about it as the menu, they were picking things off the menu that was given to them. They weren't creating the menu. And that's the difference this year with Kellen Moore. He's creating the menu and choosing what he wants off his menu versus Nick Sirianni. So that's the big change from the offensive perspective. And then Nick was talking about Tuesday and in a normal Sunday week. So not this week. It's probably not the best way to explain it, because this week they have the mini bye essentially Friday, Monday. So it's not a normal week. But if you think about it from a normal Sunday week, Tuesday is game plan day in the Eagles world. So in the past, Nick would be ultra focused on putting together and finishing up the game plan for that particular week and that particular game on Sunday. And now, as he's mentioned, he's got more time to do other things, and he's specifically talking about game management things, and studying fourth down decisions around the league, 2-point decisions around the league. You can watch all the 4-minute offense around the league, all the 2-minute offense, and all those different scenarios. So, and he compared it to practice for the players. You're putting yourself in those scenarios so you can think about what you're going to do if that situation pops up in the Eagles game. And it just gives you more reps from that standpoint. And then he can go back to the play calling and say, he is the head coach and he can put his foot down on certain things. He's not doing that play wise this year, but whether it's, the idea of alerting Kellen Moore, hey, it's 4th and 2 from the plus, part of the field. We're going to go for it. So be aware of that. Things like that and informing things. So that's the big change that he kind of explained. But he's always been a CEO coach since the Chargers game in the 2021 season. That's when that ship came. And for whatever reason, people seem to have, most people around the team knew that. But people outside seem to haven't picked up on that because everybody's so hyper focused on play calling. So the Chargers game was, let's see, week 9. From that point forward in 2021, Nick Sirianni's been a CEO coach. And you can see, when it happens, I think it was Las Vegas. The shift, and this really goes back to Doug Peterson. The Eagles were at the forefront of this 4th down explosion where everybody goes for it, to the point where somebody like Antonio Pierce plays at old school and he looks like a nut. Losing a close game. He's on the plus side of the field. He's punting the football on 4th and 1. And sure enough, who was Las Vegas playing? I don't remember, but they went right down the field and scored. It's like, you can't play that way in the current NFL. Well, you can. You're going to lose more often than not. And it's amazing how things have shifted. When Doug first started doing that, and it's an organizational decision. It wasn't just Doug, but it really stood out. And there were certain other guys who were famous for it, but the Eagles really stood out for being ahead of the curve. And now everybody does it. Detroit being most notable. And people say, well, Detroit lost the NFC Championship game. Yeah, they got to the NFC Championship game. A disaster of an organization for so many years in the NFC Championship game. And guys didn't execute. They made the right decisions. Guys didn't execute. And if they did, they would have won. But they didn't. So Dan Campbell had to take a lot of heat. That's part of it. So those decisions are difficult for head coaches because they're going to pay if the players don't execute.
Yeah, no doubt. What's your opinion on this setup for Nick Sirianni? He wasn't hired to be this CEO. At least I don't think he was. You talk about Eagles love the offensive minds and stuff like that. When they hired him, I was like, okay, they think they got their young, trendy offensive coach like a lot of the league goes for with the Shanahans and the McVays and all of those guys. The Matt LaFleur. So what's your opinion on the setup are the Eagles comfortable with where they at? Did he get, for lack of a better word, castrated from what his original role was? Like, what's your opinion on the setup now for specifically for head coach Nick Sirianni?
Well, I don't like the setup. I've said that from the past. He wasn't, it's interesting because he wasn't, That's a harsh word. He wasn't castrated.
It is. It is a harsh word.
He wasn't peeled back. The power, but that's because he was politically savvy enough to know he wasn't.
Right.
And he took control of it instead of waiting for it. So, he knew if he walked into Jeffrey Lurie's offense, he was going to be put in the office. He was going to be put into a Doug Peterson situation where if he said, no, we're going to continue to go the way I want to go. We've been successful. The best offense in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles was Nick Sirianni's offense, that 2022 offense. And he defaulted to that. And to be honest, he's probably correct. Jeffrey would have said, no, we got to make changes. We need fresh ideas. And that was sort of made very clear. So instead of going the headstrong Doug Peterson route, and Doug was, finished and he probably wanted out. And that's why he went the route. Nick didn't. So he had to acquiesce, and he did. And he chose Kellen Moore. And it's a tightrope. It's a straddling the fence type situation. And as long as you win, it's fine. I mean, but if they start to struggle, does he feel he has the authority to overrule Kellen Moore? I think so, but will he do it? I don't know. It's a very different. I don't like the setup, which I've said since day one.
Right.
You got a clear, defined leader. But as long as you win, it doesn't matter. I mean, perfect example. That was sloppy. Part of that is the field, and there's a lot of sloppy play in the NFL. Part of it is just week one. There was a lot of talk about that yesterday.
Yeah, well,
and there were sloppy.
you saw it across the NFL, whether the fields were bad or not. There was sloppy play. So
it's sloppy play all over the place.
Right.
So that's part of it. But you see some of the things coming out of the opener, which was not good offensive football, despite rolling up 34 points. Part of that is the Green Bay defense and what the hell they were doing. I mean, that factors into it as well. And you've already started with some of Jalen was good with motion. Yeah, as if he wasn't the runner-up to be the MVP with no motion. And, you're already seeing the trend because they won. Now, if they lose that game, if that Jair Alexander, if A.J. Brown doesn't play defensive back, and that turns into an interception, and they lose that game, the offense would be excoriated this week, with the and the quarterback, and the offensive coordinator. But that's how small the demarcation line is. To win, ban, everything's fine, But they have to improve a lot offensively, and they got the playmakers to do it, to put it mildly.
No doubt about it. So good stuff there from Nick. I thought it looked all right in week one. I mean, what did you think of Kellen Moore's debut? We asked Chris Franklin that yesterday, and I wanted to ask you that. What did you think you saw Kellen Moore and the offense? Anything new? Anything stick out to you from that week one offense compared to how it's looked in the past couple of years?
Oh yeah, I mean, a ton of motion compared to top 10 motion versus bottom 5 motion.
Yeah,
last year bottom. I mean, that I've said that's going to be there all year because he likes it. So it's going to be there when they're successful. It's going to be there when they struggle because he likes it. It's a part of how he runs his offense. So it's not a surprise. The biggest, I don't know if it's a surprise because he did it a ton in training camp, is Devontae Smith in the slot. Over 50% in the slot.
Wow, is that what it was? That's a bigger number than I thought.
Yeah, which was way up.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Typically 20 something percent. And you've seen around the league with some of the really explosive receivers, most notably CD Lamb and Justin Jefferson. That's how you get good matchups for those types of guys if they can do it. And Devontae can certainly do it. So I like that part of it. And yeah, I mean, there was a lot of good, but I think the Eagles kind of out talent people, and they're going to be able to out talent people because they got everything on offense. But it was a shaky game for Jalen Hurts, if you're being honest with yourself.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And that's got to get fixed. So I don't think it was Kellen Moore's fault because he wasn't the one out there making late decisions and turnover worthy throws. But bottom line is it was not a good game for the quarterback. So, and Devontae was in the slot 54.1% of the time. And the motion was 65.8 versus 35 last year. So there's your differences. But the quarterback's got to play better. Bottom line. Because
I think when I say he's got to play better, I think he needs to. He had highs and low lows. You got to get rid of those low lows, and I think he'll be all right. I just didn't like those turnover worthy plays and some of those bad decisions.
Well, yeah.
And by the way, I'm not really used to seeing Jalen make that many bad decisions like that.
He doesn't.
Go across your body, or you on your back foot, you heave it up into triple coverage. In the middle of the field. You don't normally see that from Jalen. And I thought
and that's why I kind of said all off season I wasn't that concerned about
the turnovers
last year because I thought it would regress back to his particular mean. Well, it's only 1 week, but it didn't it got worse. It got worse, and that's why his grade was so low that everybody's so upset about because he never does that.
Yeah.
So, and this is his 4th year as a starting quarterback. He's never had a grade that low because he never has had that many turnover-worthy throws in one game. Now, he's played worse because, in a more consistent fashion, but taking better care of the football. But what hurts you the most is turnovers and turnover-worthy throws when you're a quarterback when it comes to grading. And that was his worst grade as the starting quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles.
That's pretty great.
They still scored 34 points, by the way.
Yeah.
And he was phenomenal. And that's what I asked Nick. That's like instead of jumping on your sword because I get, McMullen hates Jalen Hurts. First of all, I love the guy. He's a great dude. But anyway, instead of jumping on the sword about obvious stuff and, it doesn't mean that because they won the game. No, he played poorly. But on that last drive where they siphoned off 7.5 minutes off the clock and essentially won the game, he won the game. He and Devontae. He had the great run where he carried people to get a first down, and he had the 2 big throws to Devontae because as they were trying to run the football, it wasn't very successful. They had to get those big conversions to keep that clock running. And his ability to put the bad stuff in the rearview mirror, if you watch the rest of the league, you see Troy Aikman was talking about how bad the quarterback play was around the league. Generally, when other quarterbacks have bad plays, they let it affect them. And, he's got that ability to wipe it clean and flush it, as he calls it, and go to the next play. And all of a sudden, he's making big plays down the stretch. That's the positive part. But you're sticking your head in the sand if you think he can continue to make those decisions and be successful. That is way too many bad decisions in one football game.
Yeah, no doubt. I think he'll clean it up, and I think he's Jalen's a smart guy. I've always thought that he understands things, good. And I think he knows that he's got to get rid of some of that. And hopefully he will do it. So we'll see how he continues to develop. John, I do want to ask you about a couple of the new additions to the team this year. We talked a lot about Zach Bond already. I want to talk about Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton graded out pretty dang good in his first game as a guard. What did you see from Mekhi Becton out there at guard? And does it look like, we got a new bona fide right guard with Jeff Stoutland now here in Philly?
Yeah, similar to I'm giving a bit of a mulligan to the pass rush. I'm, great first performance, but I got to see it in a more desirous environment for the defense. Where the defense isn't on skates, essentially, because I think it really affected that field, really affected the defense more than the offense. And you saw it on the other side as well. That was one of the matchups I had circled. On paper, that looked like a really tough matchup. Kenny Clark, maybe the Packers' best defensive player against Mekhi Becton, who's never played right guard in a real game before. I thought, well, that's a chance for Green Bay to create some havoc, but the footing just wasn't there. And, Clark got a grade under 40. And the Packers' best offensive player was the right tackle, Zach Tom. So it was both sides. Like the Eagles' offensive line got great grades. The Packers' offensive line got great. The Eagles' defensive front did nothing and got terrible grades. The Packers' defensive front got nothing and terrible grades. That's not a coincidence. The field was a mess, and it was, and when it came to the pass rush especially, it was a big advantage for the offense. So I think after the Atlanta game, we'll get a better indication, both if you want to talk about Bryce Huff, which I assume we will, and Nolan Smith and those guys, both for them and also for Mekhi Becton long-term at right guard. But he was just in an individual. If you don't want to add that context, he was good. He was very good against a very good, 3-4-time Pro Bowl player. The best defensive player the Packers have. He was very good, but I think it would be unfair not to add that context.
Yeah, no doubt. So we'll see how he continues to look against other teams coming up here. Next game for the Philadelphia Eagles is next Monday night. So 6 days from now, they take on Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons, who they look right.
Look good.
Yeah,
they look sloppy.
They look like food for the Eagles right now next week. So we'll see if they can clean things up, and we'll have a good game next week. I got a super chat, John, and then I want to welcome in another new member, 83 Rainy Boy. Thanks for becoming a member, brother. We appreciate you becoming a member. Prince Swayze, Johnny Mac checks in with a $10 super chat. Prince, appreciate it, brother. By the way, I did see your tweet to me last night. That was some interesting footage that you sent me of Jalen Carter. He says, Jalen would have had over 300 passing yards. James was right yesterday. The second int happened because AJ slipped. It wasn't a bad play. Would have scored a touchdown. The first int was terrible. I don't know, John. There's a footage going around. I guess Brian Baldinger did a breakdown of that interception.
Baldy's and
AJ homer. Did slip in it. It's tough for, I get it where people are going to be like, oh, if you didn't slip, maybe it wouldn't have been an interception. But I really still have a problem with the decision to throw that ball back across your body into, multiple defenders right there. I don't know. What's your take on it? I'm not sure if you caught the breakdown from Baldy.
I didn't see Baldy's breakdown.
Or if you just caught the all 22 of the play or whatever it was.
God love Baldy. God love Ross. Ross Tucker said Mekhi Becton's born to play right guard. 6'8" guy with the longest arms in the world. Just born to play left tackle, but and he was born to play left tackle, but we'll see if he can become a good guard. Yeah, look, I mean, if it makes you feel better, have at it. If you want to make excuses, Jalen's the first one to tell you, and he will be, and he was after the game, yeah, wanted a lot of plays back. And we know the plays he wanted back. And when you throw the football across your body in the middle of the field, I mean, literally day one of quarterback school. Don't do that. Now, there's the Steph Currys of the world. We always see the Patrick Mahomes, make plays that you're not supposed to do for normal human beings. Jalen certainly has that part of it to his game, and nobody cares when it's successful. But that's the point why you teach it, because will it may be successful at one point? Yeah, maybe. But if you continuously do that kind of stuff, you're going to get bit in the you know what. And that's why you say, come on. That's, yeah. I mean, got to be honest with yourself. A lot of bad decisions by Jalen Hurts. Hopefully it's the nature of the sloppiness that Nick was talking about, and the nature of early season football, and it's was prevalent all across the league. And as Troy Aikman said, there was some bad quarterback play, and he mentioned the rookies, and you kind of expect it from the rookies. But there was some bad quarterback play from veterans around the league, and Jalen's in that category. There was some bad quarterback play. Now, the good thing about Jalen is as I said, he's got the ability to put those bad plays behind him quickly and don't let them affect him. And that's the good part. But he knows he's got to get better. And Nick said it yesterday. Everybody said it. He was the first one to say it after the game. Everybody knows it. There's nothing wrong with pointing out the mistakes. That's the accountability. That's what you try to do. Try to fix it.
Baldy breakdown, John. I'm going to show you it real quick, just on the fly here. This was Baldy breaking down the play.
Even though it's not always on the court, protection is fantastic. It's really just a cradle of love right there. It's a good pocket. You're going to get outside the pocket, though. All right? You hope your receiver's going to go uncovered. And A.J. Brown does. He's got his hand up in the air right there. In fact, he's got two hands in the air. That gives Jair Alexander, eyes on him. So Jalen's going to throw it. And the throw's not bad. But right here, A.J. slips. So he can't adjust to the ball. Everybody slips in this game. And he slips and allows Jair to get to the ball before A.J. can. So credit Jair. It's a great play by him. Great play. Brings it out of the end zone. But, you're not trying to throw it to him. The receiver's slipping in the end zone. He can't adjust to the ball. And I'm sure Jalen's pissed about the whole thing, but part of playing on that field, that soccer field in Brazil. Let's watch this red zone yourself.
So that's, that's what.
Well, guess what? I don't know if people know the closings, but we went through this in 2021. I think it was the Giants game with Bradbury, and it might have been Bradbury and Xavier McKinney on the Giants at that time, where there was a late throw, and people are taking out the clips of certain, I think it was Rager, whomever it was open. They don't know how. Jair Alexander had a beat on that ball from the minute.
You could see Jair.
The minute he left his hands, AJ wasn't getting that ball. Now maybe he can get back into it from a defensive back standpoint,
right? That's
knock it down like he did with the other. Even get the offensive pass interference if you want to go that way. To try to avoid the interception, maybe it would have affected that. The minute that ball left his hand, he had a beat on that ball. And there was no freaking way A.J. Brown was getting to that ball. Now, the field was an abject disaster for everybody. Everybody. And everybody slipped. Jordan Love slipped 100 times. I just talked about, that's why I'm giving the pass rush on both teams a mulligan. And the offensive line had a huge advantage. And on top of it, the Eagles have a really good offensive line. And then they had a huge advantage on top of it. So, yeah. But, that's a bad decision. That's the point. That's why you're great. That's a
Right.
bad
It's a decision.
quarterback decision.
What do you think,
That's
John?
why
Because you
you're
said this on the post game, and I do want to ask about it. You said you were a little concerned. Actually, I think it was the halftime you said it, but the rolling to the right there, and even Baldy pointed out that was a clean pocket that you probably didn't need to leave the pocket there, maybe climb it, and you might have a better look at that throw. But is that concern you at all, or is that just part of Jalen Hurts' game, and you're going to have to take the good with the bad and live?
Yeah,
with
you're
it?
going to have to take some of the good with some of the bad. He's gotten better at it over the years. It was early. It was a really big problem his first year as a starter that Todd Bowles took advantage of in the playoff game that you saw really, the whole game plan was to get him to flush right. And it was a little bit easier. Sometimes I think he falls back into that, but you've seen a lot of improvement. Yeah, but generally you want to see quarterbacks climb a clean pocket to keep the play and keep as much of the field alive as possible on a given play. And yeah, he doesn't climb the pocket as much as he should, but he's surely not the only quarterback that doesn't do that. And it's certainly easier said than done. And the natural default setting is to try, especially for guys who have mobility, is to try to get outside the pocket and maybe run the football or at least keep that run pass option alive. But for the passing game, just the pure passing part, it's much better to climb the pocket than the flush, right or
it
left.
takes away. I mean, you're taking away half the field the minute you roll right. You're taking away really more than that. AJ wasn't.
And if you try to throw the ball across your body, you're taking your football life in your hands for that particular play.
Yeah, you better hope there's not a good cornerback on the other team like Jair Alexander, because they're going to pick on you if you do that. So good stuff there from Johnny Mac. Good breakdown on Mekhi Becton. We talked a little bit about Nick Sirianni in the open, and then we just showed the Brian Baldinger clip of the breakdown of that interception. So I want to welcome and thank everybody for being here this morning, John. We got a great crowd as always. Yesterday, John, was a big day on Birds 365, man. We had a lot of views on our show yesterday, almost 7,500 on the full show, and that's not including the clips that we posted up. That's not including the podcast downloads, which eclipsed over 1,000 yesterday. So almost 10,000 Eagles fans yesterday on the full live show tuned in for Birds 365. So can't thank everybody enough for making this one of the best Eagles podcasts out there. So thank you guys for checking in, for liking, for sharing, subscribing, for dropping super chats. We appreciate that. I got 2 supers, John, I want to get to, but we're going to get to our first commercial break. We'll come back. James Carver, I see you, brother. We're going to hit that. And then F Body Guy, we're going to hit that after the break as well. Thanks, everybody, for being here. By the way, Saquon Barkley jersey, week 1 giveaway coming up at 10 a.m. Eastern time today. I'm going to let John get out of here, and then I will do a little after hours on Birds 365. And we will give away the jersey. I got everybody's member names in the wheel, and we're going to do it. I'm going to do it live. I'll bring it up on screen for full transparency so you can see how the winner is selected. And then the winner will have 24 hours to claim their prize. They might not be here, right? I mean, I think there's almost 200 members. So, the winner's not here or they don't claim it in 24 hours. Guess what? We'll be doing another one tomorrow at 10 a.m. on the after hours. So you must claim your prize, and I will give you the directions on how to do that when that winner is selected. So appreciate everybody being here. Hit that like button. Birds 365 will be back in 3 minutes on the other side.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.